Naka Onilifor here to make the invisible visible. And if no other Black woman on the internet is talking about it, I might be talking about it. So I tell my story, and I tell the stories of other Black women as well. And if you are interested in having your story told, feel free to click the links in the description box, and I will be happy to work with you. So I'm going to be revealing some curvy confessions, and I think I have 2 confessions for this particular video, probably more confessions coming up in the future. I have lived in a curvy, thick, voluptuous, whatever you want to call it, fat, I guess some people might call it, body, most of my life, probably all of my life. And so my lens, that is the lens by which I see the world. You'll see in the description box that I have a book called My Own Gaze, Memoir of an Invisible Black Woman. And so my goal here is to make things visible for Black women. One of the ways I do that is by, in every video, doing my best to unpack what invisibility means for Black women. And one of the things that I think has not been made visible is the way in which the Black woman's body is extremely polarizing in our society. And I think recently, with a lot of different things and procedures in mainstream media, our bodies are getting more attention. So I want to unpack that, and I want to do that through the lens of being a curvier woman myself. But I want to highlight sort of in this video, the apple-shaped Black woman. And I'm going to start with the first curvy confession. So curvy confession number 1 is, in my opinion, if you want to know if somebody is fat phobic, ask them what they think about Lizzo. I think asking anyone what they think about Lizzo will reveal a lot. Lizzo is an extremely polarizing figure. And I think that people are very opinionated about her, not necessarily about her music, but more so about her body. And I don't really think Lizzo is apple-shaped, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to put her in that category because I think that that is sort of the perception of her body, is that she's a little bit more apple-shaped. I mean, she does carry weight in her midsection, although she is very proportionate. But I think that most people are fat phobic, and this is just my opinion. I think even fat people are fat phobic, and I don't mean fat in a derogatory way. I also think that thickness and being curvy there's a gatekeeping of it. And whether or not someone fits in the thick category or in the curvy category, I think it's something that there's a nuance to it. And there is a creator by the name of Car Designer Chris, and he makes really good content about, like, to sort of break down some of these nuances. And I'm going to link one of his videos in the description box as well. Check it out. And he talks a lot about how you know if a woman is thick or curvy thick or fat is sort of based on how the woman carries her weight. So is her weight predominantly in her midsection? And if she does have weight in her midsection, how does that compare to the other part? So the less fat in your stomach, the less stomach fat you have, the more you're going to be considered thick or voluptuous. And obviously, if you carry a ton of, weight, or you're just heavier in the midsection, you have a more apple shape, you will be probably leaning more toward being considered fat. Now, the funny thing is that, the term plus size and the term curvy kind of applies to both categories. Like, you'll hear that word, and when you hear curvy, you're not really sure what to picture. When you hear, even plus size, I mean, that can be a size 12 all the way up to a size, 30. So obviously those are 2 separate looks. So, I do think that there's a gatekeeping of, like I said, who is thick, who is voluptuous, who is fat. And if it is true that it comes down to your waistline, your stomach, and those types of things, that is interesting and almost, in some ways, so nuanced And like this idea that your saving grace could be in your waistline. Like the thing that could potentially move you from the very stigmatized category of fat into the category of thick, right? And we know in the Black community, being thick is a good thing. So this idea that you're able to sort of transcend fatness by way of just manipulating your waistline, I think is just so interesting. And I actually just finished a book called Thick, and it's by a academic professor. Her name is Tressie McMillan Cottom. I believe I'm saying that right. Tressie McMillan Cottom. And it's a very great book. I'm going to be talking more about that and some of her points. But yeah, I mean, so again, Curvy confession number one is, like I said, Lizzo is polarizing. Thick is often gate kept. And most people, in my opinion, are just fat phobic. Now, to that point of most people being fat phobic, I want to say that on some level, maybe it's not entirely our fault, because we know that what comes with having more fat on your body oftentimes comes with more health problems, depending on how much more fat you have on your body. But we also see someone like Lizzo who can pretty much outdance the best of them. Like, put Lizzo and, someone thin, put them in a dance contest and let's see who wins. Put them in a contest and not only just dance, but to be able to be on stage and to sing and dance and move and do all that stuff. It does take a lot of breath work, and you can't get winded fast. So it is a implication of some level of good health, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know I haven't seen Lizzo's medical documents. So, and then you see people who are thin who also have health issues, sometimes the same health outcomes that fat people have. So it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? I get that, I can understand why people are fat phobic. I get it. Obviously, like I said, there are negative health outcomes that can come with being too large. But then you might see someone who is considered large who may not have those same health outcomes, those negative health outcomes, versus someone who's thin that does, right? And we all know that even something like dieting can have over time a negative outcome, because if you're constantly up and down the scale, different weights, and trying to sort of chase a size that may not be the healthiest size for you, that can also come with its own negative health implications. So just something to think about in terms of this idea of folks being fat phobic. I think there's no question as to why people are. I think it's deeply embedded in our culture and rooted in society for us to sort of view people who are fat or who have more fat on their body with a level of, maybe, sadly, disdain, but also concern. And sometimes those concerns are not warranted.